We've all seen them, right? Those preserved flowers. They look, well, almost frozen in time. Beautiful.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, how do they do that? How do they keep that beauty going?
Exactly. And today we want to kind of peel back the layers on that. We're diving into plant preservation, the techniques used right now, and also some really interesting stuff on the horizon.
It's about capturing something fleeting, isn't it? But
Hmm.
doing it with, science and some real ingenuity.
Our mission here is simple. Give you the essentials. We'll look at current methods, some surprising innovations coming out of places like Japan, the Netherlands, but, without drowning you in jargon. Sound
Which
good?
sounds great. Let's get started.
Okay, so current methods, you mentioned it's not just one single trick.
No, definitely not. Often the best results come from what we call mixed techniques. It's not just one process, but a blend, combining different steps.
A blend for what purpose? Like better results overall.
Yeah, exactly. To improve durability, keep the color looking good, maintain a nice texture, make it feel more natural, last longer.
Got it. So, what are the typical steps involved in these mixed techniques?
Well, generally it kicks off with dehydration.
Mm.
That's really fundamental. You have to stop the natural decay process.
They're moving the water, basically.
Precisely. And that's often done using an alcohol bath or sometimes by using silica gel.
Silica gel, like those little packets you find in boxes.
Bidiv, yeah. It's a granular material, very porous, and it basically sponges up the moisture from the flowers. Pretty effectively, actually, without messing up the structure too much.
So, dehydration first, critical step. What comes after you've taken the water out?
Good question. After dehydration, a really key step is often glycerin-based rehydration.
Rehydration. But you just took the water out.
I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive,
Hmm.
but the glycerin replaces the water that was lost. It gets into the plant cells.
And what does the glycerin do?
Ah, that's the clever part. It keeps the flower flexible, soft.
Yeah.
It stops it from becoming brittle and dry like, old-fashioned dried flowers. It gives it that remarkably natural feel.
Okay, that makes sense. Dehydrate first, then rehydrate with glycerin for that softness. But what about the color? Does that survive the process?
Sometimes it fades a bit during dehydration,
Yeah.
so that's where pigmentation control comes into play.
Meaning dyes.
Often, yes. Dyes are frequently added into that glycerin solution during the rehydration step, so it can restore the original color, make it pop again, or even enhance it, make it more vibrant than it was naturally.
Interesting. Are there examples of this being tailored, like for specific flowers?
Oh, absolutely. A great example is how they treat Thai purple orchids. They're
Mhm.
quite delicate, and that purple color is really important.
So they need special handling.
They do. Often, they actually skip the alcohol dehydration because it can be a bit harsh. Instead, they might use that gentler silica gel drying process. And then they rehydrate, sometimes with pure glycerin, really focusing on preserving that specific vibrant purple. It's all about choosing the right combination for the flower.
That level of customization is fascinating. I think I also read something about bleaching being involved sometimes.
Yes, bleaching can be part of the process. It's usually a preparatory step, though.
Preparatory for what?
Mainly if the plan is to dye the flower a completely different, maybe lighter color. Bleaching carefully removes the original pigments, creating a sort of blank canvas.
So the new dye shows up better.
Exactly. It makes the new color really stand out nice and clean. Of course, responsible companies like Sweetie Gifts was mentioned, they tend to use gentler bleaching agents. They try to avoid the really harsh chemicals.
Okay, so let me see if I've got the basics. First, dehydration alcohol or silica gel to get the moisture out.
Check.
Then rehydration using glycerin to bring back flexibility.
Got it.
Then, optionally, maybe bleaching if you're going for a big color change.
Right, it's a prep step.
And finally, color enhancement, adding dyes, often with the glycerin, to get the final look.
You've nailed the key steps in these mixed techniques. And yeah, for anyone wanting more technical detail, the Second Floor Ultimate Guide is a good reference point.
Great. So that covers the sort of foundational mixed approaches, but the sources also talked about more advanced methods. What sets those apart?
Yeah, so building on those basics, there are more sophisticated ways to get the preserving solution into the plant. These advanced methods offer, let's say, finer control and target specific qualities.
Okay.
Two main ones really stand out currently.
Yeah.
The absorption method and the double immersion method.
Absorption. That sounds, well, like it sounds. How does it work?
It's actually quite elegant, though slow. You take the cut flower stems and place them directly into the preserving liquid, usually that glycerin mix we talked about.
Like putting flowers in a vase of water.
Exactly like that. The flower draws the solution up through its stem, just like you would drink water, and as it travels up, The glycerin mixture gradually replaces the plant's natural sap.
Ah, so it preserves it from the inside out, kind of.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And the result is often petals that are exceptionally soft, very pliable. It's often the go-to method for, really high-end bouquets or delicate things like floral jewelry, where that natural look and feel is absolutely critical.
Okay, slow and steady absorption for softness. What about the other one? Double immersion. That sounds more intense.
It is a bit more involved, yeah. It's a two-step immersion process. First, the flower is completely submerged in a solution to fully dehydrate it, total immersion.
Okay, so a bath, basically.
Right. Then, once it's dehydrated, it gets a second immersion, a different bath.
And what's in the second bath?
That one typically contains both the glycerin for flexibility and the dyes for color. So this second dip locks in the softness and gives it a really deep, even, long-lasting color.
So absorption, gradual internal, focuses on softness. Double immersion faster, two-step, maybe better color control.
That's a good way to summarize it. Absorption prioritizes that natural texture via slow uptake, while double immersion gives more direct control over achieving intense, uniform color after a thorough dehydration.
And I guess manufacturers pick the method based on the flower, what they want the final product to be like.
Exactly. And as Sweetie Gifts pointed out in their materials, they specifically tailor their methods. Depends on the flower type the product needs. They want the best look and durability. Their blog actually talks a bit more about how they create their eternal flowers.
It's interesting, isn't it, how preserving these cut flowers kind of echoes broader conservation efforts.
It does, in a way. You look at organizations like the Smithsonian Gardens, focusing on conserving plants in their habitats. While preserving cut flowers is different, there's a shared value there, right? Appreciating plant beauty, extending its life, and hopefully doing it responsibly.
Definitely. Okay, so that gives us a good picture of the current state of play. Now for the exciting part, the future. What new techniques are emerging?
Oh, the future looks really dynamic. It's this interesting blend of traditional knowledge meeting cutting-edge science.
And it sounds like things are getting even more personalized, tailored to specific flowers.
It's a huge trend, yes. Current methods often have to work for a wide range of flowers. A one size fits most.
Right.
But researchers, particularly in Japan, are really digging deep into tailored preservation, developing specific formulas for specific species.
Wow. What kind of factors are they looking at?
Really detailed stuff. They're optimizing the temperature of the solutions, the pH levels, even considering the best season to harvest the flower for preservation. It's incredibly meticulous.
That level of precision is amazing. What could that lead to?
Well, potentially, it could mean we could finally preserve species that are currently really difficult or maybe even impossible to preserve well. Think about really delicate things like certain alpine flowers.
Oh, wow. So you could have luxury arrangements with flowers we rarely see preserved?
Exactly. It could open up whole new possibilities for high-end floral design. The Japanese floral design site apparently has more on some of these botanical tech advances.
Very cool. What else is on the horizon? I know getting the color just right is often tricky.
It really is. Even with dyes, some natural pigments just don't play nice with the preservation process, making it hard to get, truly vibrant, lasting colors.
So what's the potential solution?
Well, one really interesting idea involves using the sun. Controlled solar exposure.
Sunlight. But doesn't sunlight usually make colors fade?
Normally, yes. But here, the idea is to use very precise amounts of sunlight before dyeing. The goal is to naturally break down some of the chlorophyll, that green pigment that can interfere with the dyes.
Ah, so get rid of the green interference first.
Kind of, yeah. By reducing the chlorophyll, the dyes you add later should appear much brighter, more true to the intended shade. And they're developing better predictive models for sunlight intensity to control this really accurately.
That's clever, using a natural process in a controlled way. Now, something else mentioned was sustainability. An eco-friendly approach from the Netherlands.
Yes, this one is potentially a game changer. They're pioneering CO₂-based preservation technology.
CO2, carbon dioxide. How does that work?
Instead of using alcohol for dehydration, which, has some environmental aspects to consider, they use pressurized CO2, supercritical CO2, actually.
Okay. And what does the CO2 do?
Under high pressure, CO2 acts like a solvent. It becomes very efficient at pulling the water out of the plant material, essentially dehydrating and stabilizing it.
And the benefits.
Several key ones. First, it seems to be faster than some traditional methods. Second, it has a significantly lower environmental impact than using large amounts of alcohol. And third, it leads to higher safety standards, which is a big deal, especially for markets like Europe with strict regulations.
Faster, greener, safer.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. Is there a catch? Why isn't everyone doing it?
The main hurdle right now is cost. The equipment and the process are currently quite expensive to set up. But, think about early solar panel tech. It started out really expensive too. The hope, and maybe the expectation, is that as the technology matures and gets adopted more widely, the cost will come down. It could become the new standard, especially for premium, eco-conscious preserved flowers. The European Environment Agency has reports on similar green tech advancements, if you're interested.
That's a really compelling glimpse into where things might be headed. It feels like we really are on the edge of some big changes. Now, to ground this a bit, our sources mentioned Annie Zhang from Sweetie Gifts. What was her perspective on all this?
Right, Annie Zhang. She brings, 20 years of experience? So she has this really deep firsthand understanding of the whole flower industry.
From markets to supply chains?
Exactly, both internationally, US, Europe, and within China. She apparently travels a lot, talks to customers globally, so she really sees the trends and the demands shaping up.
So her final thoughts really come from being in the thick of it. What was her main takeaway message?
Her core point was that the flower preservation industry is genuinely on the verge of a pretty remarkable transformation. She's seeing these new technologies emerge, seeing the growing demand for better quality, more sustainable options, and she believes it's all coming together to drive real progress.
And Sweetie Gifts, her company, is positioning itself for that future.
Sounds like it. She emphasized their commitment to investing in these new techniques, but importantly, doing it while still focusing on quality, safety, and sustainability. They want to be seen as, a partner ready for what's next in preserved flowers.
Well, it's certainly been fascinating to map this out. From today's mixed techniques, combining those steps, through to these future possibilities, tailored preservation, better colors, eco-friendly CO2, it's clear this field isn't standing still.
Not at all. Hopefully, you now have a good sense of both how it's done now and the really exciting directions it's heading in. Innovation driven by science, but also by that desire for lasting beauty and increasingly sustainability.
Absolutely. So, as a final thought for you listening, thinking about all these advancements we've discussed, preserving delicate, rare flowers, using CO2 for a greener process, what new possibilities does that spark in your mind? How might we use or just appreciate preserved botanicals differently in the future? Maybe in art, sustainable design, or even just bringing a bit more lasting nature into our everyday lives. Definitely something to ponder.